Watch, do you see that? This isn't a fun movie, this isn't a happy movie, this isn't a positive movie, this is a story I never ever wanted to tell. This is the moment of truth. There are only a few things in life that scare the ever-living shit out of me, and this video is about one of those things. The journey starts off with creating an Amazon, having a good cry about knowing what I am about to attempt again, and tossing the best gear I thought I would have for the entire run on the ground, cause they aren't spears. I start running through the cold plains as an unarmed naked woman, and immediately a group of weirdos tries to attack me. To avoid this in the future, I should probably go and buy a weapon from Charcy. I also go and spec into my first skill, the jab. I could describe it, but do I really need to? You take the big pokey stick and stab someone in any random body part with it until they fall over. It starts off as a hard fight, but now I can fend off the weirdos in the cold plains and the stony fields. I follow it up by having a good talk with the demons in their homes, but their friends seem to disagree, so I'm back to running away again. Seeing as how it turns out that being naked with a stick isn't much better than just being naked, I am going to have to find some gear. The search for gear brings me to the Dark Wood, an area name that I have been making stupid jokes about since I was 13 years old. Speaking about repeating jokes, I go ahead and fight with free Headwood Fist so I can take the Scroll of Inifus. In the Tower Cellar level 5 I get the greatest rune drop I have ever seen, a first try warmed with half a stealth in there as well. I didn't know it at the time, but this is basically the game's first time telling me that it too wants to be done with the Spirazon. Later on in the run it became very obvious that both me and the game wanted this shit to be over, but we'll talk about that when we get there. After releasing some ghosts from their reveries, I reach level 12 and this is where the grand conjuration of the run happens. Because at level 12 I unlock Impale, and on paper this skill looks insane. 300% damage, slows enemies, always hits, uninterruptible and all of that for just 3 mana. There are 2 problems though. The first being that you have a chance of losing a durability every time you use this attack, and now I hear you say, that doesn't sound too bad at all. I can imagine why you would say it, but while there is no need for atonement, it does show the world that you have not stared into the void that is using this skill, cause if you had, you would know how much of a downside this actually is. Video games are all about quality of life, and the best quality of life upgrade on this build would be uninstalling the game. The only thing making it so that you don't have to repair every minute isn't exactly a saving grace either, cause it's the other problem with this skill. Let's take a random day and say it's a beautiful one. The sky is blue, people are outside and being happy doing all sorts of non-gamer things. However, instead of joining them, your allergy to grass makes it so that you stay inside and play an Impale Amazon. On this day, you run up to a monster and start your attack. By the time your attack is done, that beautiful day has ended. Not only that, but as you look up from your screen and out of the window, you realize that life has continued on and is now well into the frost of winter. What I am trying to convey here is that this attack is pretty slow. Every single attack with Impale feels like an eternity. And to top it all off, that one attack cost you a durability. It's not all disappointment all the way down though. There are some very specific things this skill does very well, but they are few and far between. The second Countess run grants me an Eth rune. This, together with the Tal rune, makes for a stealth rune word. Stealth is a rune word in an armor that kind of does it all. 25 faster run walk, 25 faster hit recovery, some dexterity is on there as well, but the most important part early on in the run is the 30 poison resist, cause we are going to need that for the first boss fight. Speaking about the first boss fight, Andariel here is as good a moment as any to showcase the one thing Impale does well. It's an amazing boss killer. The slow enemies mod on this skill is so strong that it breaks bosses, which as you will see later on in the run, will make even the most dangerous of boss fights hilariously easy. In the meanwhile, Andariel has dropped unique heavy boots, which are Gorefoot. They are intended for a barbarian with the +2 leap on there, but I'll take the 20 faster run walk over the nothing I am currently wearing. In Act 2, I decide to make myself a poor man's Shaco and buy some 19 Magic Find gloves to try and get some good items. This starts paying off right away, cause the rare tridents suddenly start dropping like nobody's business. Decorative corpses, self-made corpses and soon-to-be corpses are all just giving it away. And while you understand why they are just giving them away, it does inspire hope. Which is very needed, cause at the end of Act 2, it is time for one of the hardest fights of almost any hardcore run. At the end of Act 2, Duriel is waiting. This guy has been killing new players and people with slow connections or server issues since 2001. Today, however, Impale just overpowers him. The slow on it makes his attacks so infrequent I can just face tank him, which is exactly what I end up doing. He ends up dropping a mask, a rare amulet and a set ring. And while this isn't the mask, it's still an upgrade to what I'm wearing now once I get some topaz to put in there. The ring turns out to be a Cathan's. But the big find here is the amulet. Minimum damage, mana leech, 22 fire resist, 13 poison resist and half freeze duration. I have worn amulets much worse than this to the end of runs before and I will gladly wear this. In the spider forest I pick up the jade figurine and Kalim's eye for the quests, after which I try to make my way through the rest of the jungle, but I get ambushed by suckers. They give me a warm welcome to the jungle, but all I want to tell you about what happened that night is that what happens in the jungle stays in the jungle. I refuse to fail this run, which means that it's time to improve my survivability. To do so I head back into Act 2 and buy a 3-socket armor that I cram full of damage and resistances. With my shiny new armor I make it to the Flayer jungle, where I promptly pick up the Gidbin and Kalim's brain before moving along towards the ruined temple. In here I find a magic maiden spear that I re-roll using chipped gems, and while I was calling the weapons I was using a spear. Now this is a spear. However, I do not have the stats for it, so to fix that I head back into Act 1 and clear out the Den of Evil. This makes it so that Akara grants me a free reset of my stats and skills. I do the most standard of standard strength and dex for gear rest into vitality setup so I can wear my new weapon. Skill wise I put 1 point into each passive I can get, which makes it so that I can now dodge and stab a bunch of stuff with my spear a little better. The main thing here is that because I am now level 24, I also get the final skill that was requested for this build, Fend. The skill description is quite vague, so I'll explain. Fend is basically the communist version of Jab. Whereas Jab does all of its attacks funneled at one enemy, Fend divides its attacks between the people fairly. And if this footage makes it look like a shitty version of Zeal, that would be because it is. Now that I think about it, that is the best way to describe this entire build. Take a paladin, give him smite and zeal, play him for 5 minutes to get a feel for how good that plays. Enjoy breezing through every single thing in the entire game, no questions asked. Then make it slower and riskier, cause spears are two-handed and require a load of stats. Also, just go ahead and make it impossible to get good resistances. Follow that up by just making it feel and play worse. Then force yourself to have to repair every 3 seconds. Voila, you have created this build. Fortunately, my new weapon is pretty strong, as demonstrated here by the council just casually imploding in a few seconds, dropping me Sander's gloves. I don't know who this Sander guy is, but 20 increased attack speed and 40 life on his gloves. I like him already. All I need to do is go and reach level 28. Mephisto is the first boss where you can truly see just how busted slow on enemies is. Once he has been slowed enough, he just breaks and kinda stands there like a piñata. The same goes for Isual. He tosses a few pity punches my way, but he should have stayed home if this is all he can muster up. After the Isual quest, I decided to upgrade my Shaco and try and farm some Mephisto for some more gear. During this, I encountered something terrible, a physical immune. For now, he goes down to my poison damage, but I'll have to figure out something better for them later in the run. The council drops a set amulet. It turns out to be an Angelic's amulet. Now I really want to find the ring, cause together they combo and give 75 life and a pile of attack rating, which would help out. Impale can't miss, but Jab and Fend definitely can. During the Mephisto farm I find an Ord rune, a Saris's belt and Sander's boots. My rune luck continues on in the Chaos Sanctuary, where I end up finding a Tall rune. One of the Venom Lords ends up dropping a 3-socket Maiden Pike, and while this is a slow weapon, it has a lot of damage. To improve it even more, I go ahead and make the runeword Malice in the pike. For now, I equip both spears so I can stack the open wounds and the poison damage. Just as with Duriel, Diablo is normally one of the hardest fights in the game. However, thanks to Impale, it is just stupidly easy. So I take him down no problem. He drops a unique blade, which is a spectral shard. A fantastic weapon for a caster, which we are not. He also dropped a rare ring, which had nothing special on it. While we are not a caster, our new Act 3 mercenary Devac certainly is. So I decide to give him the spectral blade, which he apparently can't use cause it's a dagger. This guy who is trained to use swords can't use a dagger. Yeah, no, that is bullshit. So instead of that strategy, I am forced to improvise. I end up making a Zephyr with the Ord rune I found and give it to Claudia. The damage in this weapon comes from the 1 to 50 lightning damage, which is why I went ahead and put it in the fastest bow I could get. Twister is a bunch of twisters and stuns the monsters. A nice little bit of much needed crowd control. Unfortunately, it can't trigger from mercenaries, or if it can, it never did for me. Together we take down Shank the Overseer, which gets me to level 28, so I can now equip the second piece of the Sanders set. As a bonus it gives 50 defense. I do some Eldritch farming, where I end up finding a 10 life 5 fire resist small charm, which is sweet so I figured I'd show it off. That same experience grinding session gets me to level 30, where I unlock the third of the Soul Sisters. Valkyrie is a summon that is a Spirazon. I don't know what else to tell you except that she is probably better at it than we are, so I put the skill point in and now we have another sister. Normally tool runes are pretty rare in normal, but the game just wants to help me out. Eldritch drops one and I find another one while saving the barbs. Iback the Unleashed drops a unique brandy stock, my first unique spear. It has damage, life leech, open wounds, strength and life. I like those mods, so I go and equip it. In the Frozen River I deal with Frozenstein his cronies, save Anya, eat the resistance scroll and get sad looking at my lightning resistance. You'd think Anya would give a great weapon to the woman who saved her life, but she doesn't, so we sell it right back. During the Ancients fight, it proves to be a good thing that I am wearing 2 spears, cause despite repairing before starting the fight, the first one breaks halfway through. Luckily for me, the second one finishes the job. Between Claudia's frozen arrow and the Valk and me tanking, we have a surprisingly easy time with Lister the Tormentor, which means it's time for the most hilariously broken boss fight in the game. Remember when I said that boss fights get ridiculously easy? Remember how semi-reasonable the Duriel and Diablo fights looked? Baal was the fight that I was thinking of when I said that, and for good reason. Just look at this fight. As you can see, he just doesn't function. He just does nothing. His attack animations are so long that he can't complete them because of the slow on impale, resulting in him being about as dangerous as a tentacled little plushie. With the first part of the run done, it is time to move on to the second part. As you saw in the intro, only one of the previous attempts made it through Nightmare. The rest all perished, so we definitely have our work cut out for us if we want to make it through. To survive the upcoming difficulty, we'll need to improve our gear and level. To do this, I go back to Eldritch, who ends up dropping a plated belt with 24 faster hit recovery, 49 life and 28% fire resistance, an easy upgrade over the Serris' belt. I kept murdering him for a while, but I feel like I've done enough to him for now, so it's time to head into Nightmare. First, let's make sure that we know what we are working with. Resistance wise, I'm kind of happy and unhappy at the same time. The fire resist is maxed out, nothing to worry about there. Cold and poison resist we can fix with thawing potions and antidotes, so no problems there either. But that lightning resistance makes me want to make me impale myself on my spear so I can't get electrocuted by the monsters. Gear wise, we are still looking at the Blood Thief. A new 10 faster hit recovery, 20 life, 14 lightning resist, 28 fire resist helm that we got from Eldritch as well during the grind. I'm still wearing the dual resist amulet Duriel dropped us, the self-made armor with resists and poison damage, the Sanders gloves, a 27% cold resist ring, the belt I just talked about, a 20% cold resist ring and the Sanders boots. Some of this gear looks impressive, some of it doesn't, but all of it will need to be replaced before we head into hell. But that is getting ahead of ourselves. Like I said, 3 out of my 4 previous attempts didn't even make it out of Nightmare, but I'm feeling good on this one, so let's dive in. In the Darkwood, I fight 3-head Woodfist again, and while in normal I never ended up bothering to save Kane, here I do go and save him. Unfortunately, the ring I get as a reward isn't very good. The next thing I want to do is getting a Soul rune so I can make a lore rune word. It takes about 10 million runs, but I end up getting 1. Lore has +1 to skills, the much needed lightning resist and some damage reduction. And while I find the best helm in the game later this run, it'll do for now. One thing I always want to make clear during these videos is that while they aren't intended as a guide and are purely intended for entertainment, I know people are using them as guides, which is cool, no worries, I'm just happy you're watching and having a good time. But what I want to specifically point out here is to do as I say and not as I do, cause when you have the runes you should upgrade your weapons, which I do. What I'm also gonna tell you is that you should check the requirements of your new weapon before you do so, which I didn't. 80 strength and 95 dexterity are the requirements of the upgraded Warfork version of the Blood Thief, and I have 78 and 67, which means I am 2 strength and 28 dex short. 30 stats is 6 levels worth of stats. It's nothing short of sheer stupid luck that I was already using a second spear to put poison damage on enemies, cause otherwise this would be a much bigger problem. This isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it gets the job done. Luckily, the game realizes I fucked up and helps me out. In the Catacombs level 2, a unique Warfork falls to the floor. I can't believe my luck, cause while I am still short on stats for the Soul Feastine, I'm much closer thanks to its reduced requirements. Damage and leech wise, this is also a much better weapon. I'll gladly use this, which means that instead of being 6 levels short, I'm only 2 levels short. Thank you game. If the game is helping me out this much, I figured I should do my part as well. So I go ahead and make a piece rune word. This does all sort of stuff, but I'm only going to use it to make my Valkyrie 2 levels higher when I cast it. After summoning her, I'm going to just let Claudia wear it, cause I don't want the random Valkyrie procs. The Andariel fight was once again very easy, with the riskiest part of it being that my weapon durability fell low during it. In Act 2, nothing much happened until Duriel died. He dropped unique Demon Hide boots and a fantastic rare Demon Hide sash. The boots are Inferno Strides, they can proc blaze so you can run faster. They have fire damage, max fire resist and 30 fire resistance. The belt is some serious GG gear though, 16 life, 29 cold resist and 28 lightning resist. I would be surprised if we managed to get something better than this during the run. Good thing I found that lightning resist, cause in the Great Marsh I get sneak attacked by a group of gloams. The good fortune of the run keeps on going when in the Flayer dungeon level 2 a Lem rune drops to the floor. Lem is probably my favorite rune to find on a run like this. It has endless possibilities, but I knew the second it dropped what I wanted to use it for. While the resists on this Spirazon are okay now, we are still in Nightmare, so we will need a lot more. I would also like more survivability in general. So that leads me to making a Treachery. This armor says +2 to assassin skills, but don't let that fool you. This is one of the best melee armors in the entire game thanks to its 45% increased attack speed and 5% chance to cast level 15 Fade. Level 15 Fade gets you 79% curse duration reduction, meaning that if you get a spell cast on you, it now lasts only a fifth of the time, making those pesky Oblivion Knights in the Chaos Sanctuary just stand around being useless. It does also shorten your shrine times, so be wary of that, but that on its own is a massive increase in your survivability and would be good enough to wear, but there is much more. With level 15 Fade on, you get 60% increased resist all, which is exactly as good as it sounds. And there is still more, it also gives you 15% physical damage reduction, or about 2 bear runes worth of physical damage reduction. We're going to take it out for a spin right away as well. The first of the fallen attempts fell at the hands of Icehawk Riftwing. That transgression will not stand, so it is time for revenge. We run up to the group of friendly looking bats just hanging around doing nothing, but we know better. These guys are killers, they murdered our sister, so we want them to be very dead. We make sure this happens by dragging them back into a trap where Claudia and the Valkyrie are waiting. It's a short and bloody skirmish, but one Frost Nova later, they are gone, and the first fallen is avenged. The second fallen sister can be avenged straight after. She fell to the council and thanks to fate I can just stand in their attacks. I don't need to move, I don't need to be scared. All I need to do is jam a spear down the council's throat. After dealing all that death, I decide to relax with a quick game of inventory Tetris to make sure everything looks all nice and aesthetically pleasing. Mephisto manages to give me quite the shock, but except for that one moment, the boss fights have become trivial, so down he goes. After dealing with him, I get to make another craft. This one isn't particularly amazing, but we just gotta keep trying. An Abyss Knight in the River of Flame drops a 4-socket rune bow. I decide to make an insight in it for Claudia. You can get great things out of the Hellforge, however this time I get an IO rune. In the Chaos Sanctuary I get a swift reminder as to why I always stand behind the seal when I pop it. Lord Theseus and his knights spawn right on top of us. If the Valk and Claudia hadn't been standing there, I would have been in serious danger. The Decrepify from Theseus lasted much longer than I would like, so I decide to go full try-hard mode for this run and start proccing Fade from the fire next to the River of Flame waypoint. You can do this with any fire, but these are just very easy to reach. Trivial boss fight is trivial, so Diablo goes down, and to Act 5 we go. Act 5 goes right ahead and becomes a dangerous cesspool after hearing just how much I talked shit about Act 4 being easy. It starts off with a Minotaur almost just clobbering me to death before we get him. It follows this class act up by slamming the frozen river full of souls. Thanks to Fate, I am at max lightning resistance, so I get to make my way through them. I go and save Anya, have the scroll of resistance for dinner again, and she gives me a reasonable spear as a quest reward, but it's nowhere close to what I'm using. With the damsel in distress no longer in danger and the frozen river returned to its deathly dormancy and desuetude, it is time to bring deliverance to the ancients. The fights against Madoc and Talix turn into a 3 versus 2, during which it turned out that the Valkyrie on her own deals more damage than me and Claudia combined. Man, the bar on this build was low, but I'm getting out damaged by my own Valk even when I'm getting help. I run out of durability once on Baal, but besides that, the fight is free and down he goes. Before heading into hell, I'm going to wrap up everything in Nightmare, meaning that I go and say hello to Radamant and eat the Book of Skill. Speaking about skill, RNG is 1 and look at how good I am at it. I decide to craft a pair of gloves and end up with Tri-Res 10% crushing blow beauties as the result. For even more hell prep, I decided to socket a great helm up to 3 sockets for the next runeword I want to make. So I head up to Larzuk, drag the helm in the slot, I click OK, look at the helm, and see that it has 2 sockets. Guess I'm not getting a new helmet. I decide to use my other socket quest reward on my Solfi Stein and put an Ed rune in it for the minus 25% defense, which will allow me to hit my enemies a bit easier. With all of that, it is time to go and find out if this will be the furthest attempt of them all, cause it is time to head into hell. First things first, it's time for a resistance check. I triggered Fate beforehand, but with it the resistances are at 60, 75, 75 and 26, which is quite encouraging to see. In the Den of Evil, I immediately get reminded that things hit very hard and that I should probably have grinded more. Just a couple swings from a random monster is all it takes for my life total to plummet. Disaster struck as Corpse Fire turned out to be physical and cold immune. I could redo the entire Den of Evil, but his health was going down thanks to the fire damage on the Inferno Strides. So I figured this would still be better than doing it all again. With the Den of Evil having shaken my confidence, I decide to get back into Nightmare. But before I started the grind, I decided to make myself a magic finding armor. And with that I dived back into the terror zones. I got lucky, the catacombs were terrorized, which means that its area level will always be 2 above mine and Andariel is ready for some farming. First off, I find some sharkskin boots. These are water walks. They can roll up to 65 life. I got 64, so 1 off of the max. The dex on them is also very welcome. Next up I found some Chanseys. These roll 25 to 40 magic find, so I'm pretty happy with the 30 magic find on them. She drops a set ring, which turns out to be an Angelic's ring. I now have the combo if I want it, but I don't know if I can afford to equip it, because while hitting things is great, you can't hit them when you're dead. Survivability always comes first. A casket gets me a unique heavy belt, which is the gold wrap. This has 10% increased attack speed and 30 magic find. The Spire of Honor drops as well. I thought about using this over the Solfi Stein I am using, but the added stat requirements and slow attack speed put me off it. The best drop of the farming session, and perhaps even of the entire run, happens at the end. My dear viewer, I need you to stop farming the game on your other monitor for a second and pay attention, cause a unique Grim Helm drops to the floor. This is the Vampire's Gaze. It can get 6 to 8 life and mana leech and 15 to 20% physical damage reduction. It ends up rolling 8, 8 and 19%. That is an almost perfect gaze, one of the best of these I've ever found in my life. The game reminds me that it wants to be done with this build as well, cause while the gaze doesn't have resistances, RNG decides to help me out with that. On my very next craft, the gaming gods give me an 11 all res ring. To truly convey just how much tryharding and gamers wedding I am doing during this run, I also make the smoke runeword. This runeword has tons of words on it, but the only thing that matters is the 50 resist all. So the strategy now becomes: first, I put on the Lore Helm and the Peace runeword for the +3 to skills. Then I summon the Valkyrie with that buff. I follow that up by giving those back to Claudia and equip the Gaze and the Treachery, proc Fade for the resistances and physical damage reduction. I then switch the Treachery for a smoke I'm just keeping in my inventory. I do this every single game and every single time Fade runs out, which is every 280 seconds or about every 5 minutes. Combine that with the repairing of my gear every nanosecond. Yes, I too think I have created something special. Thanks to all of that, I'm not afraid of dying in the game anymore, cause the only thing that dies when you try this hard is the joy of living. I grind Pindleskin till I hit level 67, equip the Resist All ring I crafted earlier and follow it up by working my way to the Worldstone Keep to continue the grind. In there I find a +1 to Mastery's Grand Charm. I want to like this skiller, but what honestly is the point of this? With the disgust in this charm bringing me to my own personal hell, I figure I might as well get back into actual hell. In there I pick up the Scroll of Inifus, which is usually the hardest part of saving everyone's favorite Lepidopterist. But this time Tristram turned out to be prepared. 2 boss packs of skeleton archers are waiting for me and they are not messing about. In the span of just 15 seconds they managed to crater my life total 3 times, forcing me to retreat. I give it another attempt, but it yields the same results. Doing the same thing again and again is the definition of insanity, so instead I decide to give Claudia a new weapon in the form of Edge, cause it has 280% damage to the undead. With her new cannon things should go better, but they don't, so instead I decide to do what I should have been doing from the start and just take the other path and free Kane. The ring I got as a reward was a small upgrade to the one I was wearing thanks to its extra mana for some quality of life. On my way to Andariel, a unique Choco Nu drops. This unassuming little demon machine actually is the best weapon in the game for a bow sorceress, thanks to its 66% chance to pierce. In the catacombs I decide to take revenge for the 4th attempt by fully genociding every single tainted I could find. It's a hard job, but someone's gotta do it. After giving a moment of silence to those we lost, I realized this is now the furthest attempt. It is time to finish what started all those years ago and to end my gnawing descent into madness. First on our final hit list on the way to Guardian status is Hell Andariel. It takes a repair, but besides that she isn't much of a threat. Feeling confident after that brisk fight, I storm into some random ass birds. This however turned out to be a bad idea. At their demise I almost swiftly join them when the cold damage makes my life pool worryingly empty. The problems continue in the far oasis, when things once again are much more depleted than I would like them to be. In the Maggot lair I finally realize what's been going on. Despite talking about being a tryhard for the entire run, I have neglected to proc Fade, which I am fully going to blame on natural causes, cause I can. The Maggot lair lives up to the hype on this run as well. I end up having to plow through disgusting bugs on every single millimeter of this godforsaken tunnel. I thought my suffering was over when I reached level 3, but no such luck. It's a good thing I decided that clearing this area would be a great job for the locals, cause I'm not doing it. Instead I go and move to the proper location of the Maggot lair and complete my search for what I call my most manly part. I hadn't realized it yet, but during none of this, Fate decided to proc. Fortunately, Fangskin sent me a reminder, so I went back to the Cold Plains, this time armed and dressed for a night of fun, and let the Dark Hunters have their way with me until I got what I wanted. When someone reminds you of something you forgot, you should thank them, so to adhere to social etiquette I go and say thanks to Fangskin. If the Maggot lair looked as bad to you as it did to me, I congratulate you on the serenity of mind, cause there is something much worse out there. The Arcane Sanctuary is where physical based builds go to die. Even defeating a single monster in here takes forever, and you can forget it when a boss pack of ghosts comes flying out of the void. The only thing they want is to destroy me, and if I fight them head on, they very easily can. So instead I decide to make a town portal and then lure them back to the waypoint. Once they are there I take the waypoint back to town and move on through my TP. At the end of the sanctuary I stab the summoner out of spite for making me suffer through this area and make my way to the Tall Rasha's tombs. The good thing about the tombs is that it's very easy to proc Fade here. Just use one of the trap chests. The bad thing is that those big burly men over there want to do unspeakable things to us. But I've learned my lesson from Tristram and just take a different path instead of asking them just how bad it's going to be. In here a 4-socket diamond bow drops as well, knowing full well that relationships work by giving people lots of shiny new things whilst you ignore them. I decide to make another insight for Claudia. The headliner of Act 2 is Duriel, but just like every other boss fight in the game, the danger he proposes to be is paltry at best. The more important thing about this fight is that he keeps up the trend of dropping gear upgrades, this time in the form of a 12 resist all amulet. Act 3 starts off with a group of thorned hulks sent by the game to remind me to proc my Fade again. I don't even know if I'm winning thanks to myself or the game at this point with how much help it has been giving me. The Maggot lair fiasco continues in the spider cavern, where things are just as busy, so there is only one thing I can do and I start shoving my spear into every single thing I can see until there is nothing left standing. After a brutal duel to the death for the git bin, I go and give Ormus his kitchen utensil back. For my reward he gives me a pretty crappy ring. Last time this video I'm helping him out if that's all I get. In the Flayer dungeon I see lots of physical immunes. I decide to treat them the same way I do all my other problems, by ignoring them while I run past and pretending I'm busy. This works for a little bit, but I end up getting stuck and having to save and exit the game. During the second attempt I pick up a set reinforced mace. This is Dangoon's teaching. I have some fond memories of clearing the game with this before, but whilst being a much better weapon than what I'm using, it is not a spear, so I won't be equipping it this run. I am nothing if not a patient man, so I take my time and stay kilometers away from the unique boss doll I encounter on level 2. My patience gets rewarded with finding Kaleem's brain on level 3. Out of honor, I battle the council using divide and conquer strategies combined with going 3-on-1 with them for a fair fight. However, they don't agree with this, and the fight ends up turning just a bit too fair for my tastes. So instead of fighting them head on, I make my daring tactical retreat. This sounds like me running away like a chicken, which it totally isn't, but it did allow me to get back into the much more honest 3-on-1 battling I love to do. And while I didn't need to kill all of them, I really wanted to, so I did. In the Durance I let the dolls get stuck behind some baskets, which devolves them from being some of the most dangerous enemies in the game to being free target practice for Claudia. Just like every other boss fight, the Mephisto fight is a pretty negligible danger and a marginal challenge at best. As long as I kind of attack in his general direction, I can just mow him down. Before heading into Act 4, I decide to craft again, which results in an amulet that if you squint really hard and ignore half the affixes is amazing. Yet, it's still much better than the 12 resist all amulet I'm wearing, so I'm happy with it. At this point of the run, I am getting sick of the constant gear swapping, but slowly but surely, but mostly slowly, it does allow me to first make my way out of the starting area, then make my way through the open worlds of Act 4. Followed up by more slow but sure advancement through the River of Flame. I get a second Lem rune from the Hellforge, but with my current gear setup I have no use for it. The Chaos Sanctuary is more of the same slow and steady advancing, but at this point I have gotten so tanky that the regular monsters don't even move my health bar anymore. A massive improvement to the build, I would say. Even the bosses aren't much of threat anymore. Lord Desace kind of wanders around like a demented old man before getting a rectal exam with my spear. And I can't say Infector fares much better. It shows that I have taken things very seriously here, cause at this point all challenge feels gone. If things in the Chaos Sanctuary can't hurt me, I don't know what else possibly would be able to. It sure isn't Diablo though. Even without Fade, it turns out that he isn't much of a threat. The leather armor he drops is Blinkbat's form. I'm not going to use it cause it's a very early game item, but I know some people in the comments would get a hate boner if I don't show it, and I want to deny them that pleasure. With that, my dear viewer, it is time to head into the final act. In this act there are 3 goals. The first one is easy. I want to eradicate every single Spear-Azon-like enemy I come across, cause after helping me out so much, the least I can do is try and remove them from the game so that it doesn't have to play this build anymore. The second goal is beating the Ancients, which leads into the grand finale, beating Baal. To do this, I head into the frigid highlands and start wiping out every single Vile Lancer. Despite already being extremely tanky, I want to make sure that I get through this run, so I decide to use my socket quest to put a soul rune in my helmet for some more damage prevention. The rest of my way to the Ancients was about as you expected. I was fully able to watch my Valkyrie tank some Deathlords, killed some more Lancers and made my way to the Ancients. Considering how I was already being a massive fucking nerd and taking this game way too serious, I decided to keep resetting the fight until I got the easiest possible mods I could get on them. Korlik had the mana burn and teleportation mods, which is fantastic, cause I care about neither of them and it makes it really easy to kill him. Maddock looks at Korlik's remains on the ground and decides that it's a good idea to walk into the same trap. He ended up extra fast with Stone Skin, which boiled down to him being stuck faster and taking longer to stab. Talek ended up with the teleportation mod as well, which is just as dangerous the second time around, as long as I don't just stand around to get used like a punching bag on Boxing Day. Everything should be fine. I go ahead and rid the world of the obligation of having to pay for their pensions, which nets me a reward in the form of experience. At this point I have reached level 77, my resistances are maxed, my skills are optimized and I no longer want to play this build, so let's finish this. Despite helping me out for most of the run, the game decides to throw me a curveball with some ironically named invaders. I mean, I'm the one invading their home. Conundrum aside, they do force me into one more save and exit, which means I have to go and walk back from the frozen river through the Ancients' Way. And it is in there that it becomes clear why the game sent me back. I come across another group of Dark Lancers, and this was the game's way of telling that all of them need to be eradicated. I thought I had gotten rid of them all, but the Worldstone Keep level 1 turns out to be their stronghold. One after the other group of Black Lancers crosses my path. Message received game. I'll make sure that you too never have to play this again. The Worldstone Keep level 2 doesn't have any Lancers, instead it has a massive surprise attack waiting for me. I managed to dodge it. To celebrate my ongoing survival, I stab all of them one by one. After making my way through level 2 and 3, I get a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, so to prepare I decide to get Fade before heading into the throne room. Once inside, lo and behold, to no one's surprise, I get attacked by souls. What can I say, it isn't a surprise when it happens every single time. The Baal waves come and go without any problems. I am so tanky that not even the mighty Lister the Tormentor is a danger to me anymore. Which brings us to the final fight of the game, the Baal fight. The impale skill completely breaks him into not being functional at all, so one final repair later, Baal goes down. With Baal dead, the Amazons avenged and the Impalezon made into a guardian. It is time for me to go and capture all my try-hard sweat into a bottle and sell it on the dark web, with that final disgusting thought put into your mind. That's it. The story I never wanted to tell is done. I'd like to thank the channel members and Patreons for their continued support, you, the viewer, for watching, and myself for finally being done with this fucking run after 3 years, and I'll see you all in the next run.